don't have any special powers.
Oh, I have one, Johnny. I never give up.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site, I almost said Marvel, that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. I'm recovering from a cold that I've had for over 11 days. I was actually not able to record any videos last week. However, I am pretty far ahead. I'm about a month ahead of schedule. So as of this recording, I'm now only 3 weeks ahead of schedule. But I discovered that I'm going to need surgery, which will take me probably about a week. So after all is said and done, I'll probably just end up being 2 weeks ahead of schedule, but that's all right. And so if you hear my voice is kind of still recovering from being sick. I've also got a cough drop on my mouth, so I don't start hacking from talking so much. So Detective Comics 473. It is by Marshall Rogers with the pencils. Terry Austin will be doing the inks. And Steve Englehart is our writer. I am covering the guy that inspired Todd McFarlane with his capes design, with his... it's basically Todd McFarlane before Todd McFarlane. Here we go. Even as the Batman and Robin battle for their lives, a deadlier menace casts a shadow over them, the Penguin. And this is really cool here. I'm glad they didn't blacken it. I'm glad they did it like in a different color here, but that is pretty cool. I like it there. So we've got the Penguin here. So this is our third issue with Marshall Rogers. He had a very short run there in Detective Comics. By the way, Marshall Rogers has passed away a few years ago, so rest in peace, my man. He was incredible artist. So we get through here. An almost legendary figure, the cowled shadow of the Batman, prowls through the nights, preying upon the criminal parasites like the winged creature whose name he has adopted. And so we've changed this nowadays in modern times from created by Bob Kane to created by Bob Kane with acknowledgments to the works of Bill Finger. So we start out with these guys tossing the body of Hugo Strange into the river here. And then they're reminding us that he did not give up Batman's secret identity. And so at the same time, here comes Batman and Robin here. And the title of our story, The Malay Penguin. Steve Englehart is our writer. Marshall Rogers is the penciler, even though it says here art. And Terry Austin is the inker. Julie Schwartz, also rest in peace, was DC's longtime editor. I liken Julie Schwartz as Jim Shooter before Jim Shooter. He really did a lot to try and turn DC from that campy 50s and 60s to a more serious, a more modern day comic book company. So a lot of that credit goes to Julie Schwartz. And so Batman and Robin come and hit those two guys here. And they're like, the criminal here, the first one says, "Where'd he come from? What is this?" And the other guy says, "Don't freeze, Bruno. He's got Robin with him. I need help." And they're like, "You just mentioned his name." And boom, you see Robin hit him here. And now the other guy shoots at Batman, and he's wondering um, what that person do that you pushed off the pier. He says, "Answer me," and Batman grabs his wrist and makes pressure on it, and the guy's like, "My hand." And Batman says, "I couldn't hear you before in the fog, so you're gonna have to repeat it now." Real quick, the one thing that I draw Batman different from Marshall Rogers, or at least the kind of Batmans I like the small ears, like Frank Miller, and Joe Quesada also does the small ears, whereas other people draw these huge ears, like Kelly Jones, for example, draws these huge ears. And so, um, anyway, we go, "No." Um, uh, he says, "You know who I work for, Batman. You can't make anything stick." And he says, "Mr. Murdoch is speaking of our beloved city president, Rupert Thorne, Robin. You've missed out on Gotham's changing political fortunes." So during this time, Robin is out in college. He doesn't become Nightwing till the 80s, so he is still Robin during this time, but I don't know. I can't imagine being 18 and dressed like this, but um, anyway, Robin says, "But I've read the papers between the lines. Does Thorne really control the police?" And Batman says, "No, not with Gordon in charge. He controls the courts, meaning Rupert, and the police in matters of city policies, like whether the Batman's still welcome in Gotham City. Here come the police, and I'm ready to meet them with open arms. How about you, Batman?" And then Batman just kind of stares at him and hits him. Now, Batman being against the police is not a new concept. It is something that once in a while a new writer will do to try and reset some things. The new Batman Volume 4 just came out, I think 2 weeks ago, and I have covered that issue. And Matt Fraction, who is the new writer of Batman, is basically doing the same thing where he's got he's got Gordon working the city beat. So he goes from commissioner to a city cop, and then oh my gosh, I forgot who the new police commissioner is. It's the Immortal guy, DC's Immortal guy. He oh gosh, his name escapes me right now. But anyway, feel free to check out the Batman that I covered. So in that issue, Batman is now also against the police because the police are basically going after him. And so this happens once in a while, to just change things up here. So here comes the police, and Batman and Robin are out. And so it's become very foggy. And so Robin says, "I can't believe it. You ordered to cease and desist." And Batman says, there was an official meeting last Tuesday which I missed because I was at Hugo Strange prison. In my absence, Thorne had no trouble ramming out his resolution through." And so Robin says, "Well, you've been an outlaw before, and so have I. I only came for a visit, but you couldn't blow me out of here now with dynamite." And Batman says, "I thought you'd feel like that." And Robin says, "Heck yes. And speaking of feeling, how are you feeling? It's been less than 24 hours since you got out of Hugo's cell." And I like this. This is now through the water, so we're looking at their reflection here. So Marshall Rogers creating different ways to like those panels that always work when people are talking, and how you can create new things here. So anyway, Batman says, "Oddly enough, I feel good. Apparently, Strange's injections not only kept me unconscious, but helped my burns heal too. It's almost like he wanted me to live all along. It's crazy." And Robin says, "You said it, but it's not going to keep us from tracking him down, We're outlaws or not, one thing I've learned while living in Gotham City is that insanity is no excuse. And so the writer, of course, tells us here that Rupert Thorne murdered Hugo Strange, so he won't find him here. So now we go to an abandoned theater here, and here comes the Penguin. You can see his umbrella, the back, or the I don't know, what would you call it? The little hook. Umbrellas don't really have that now, but they were made so you could hang them up. Um, and so the Penguin's waiting for Hugo Strange. He's like, that strange fellow has stood me up. No one does that to the Penguin. And so he opens the curtain here. The auction was to be tonight, but I am alone. Not even my competitors have appeared. Is this a game? And if so, what are the rules? And so Penguin continues, well, I have little time to devote to that matter now, with my primary plans proceeding apace. Learning the Batman's secret identity would have been glorious, but it seems not to be. If only I knew who my rivals were. And so there's a laugh here. And so the Penguin deducts that it's the Joker here. He says, show yourself, you grinning gargoyle. And so, nothing. And so, the Penguin here thinks the Penguin fears no sane man. But the Joker is hardly that. It's high time I took my leave. So even Penguin's a little concerned about it. At least I know he didn't divert Strange. He wouldn't return here if he had. We have no need to cross swords, and that suits me perfectly. And so he tells his guys, let's go. And so off they go. And here you see back then how they delivered the news to the newsstand here. And something apparently happening in Superman. It says here Superman captured. Anyway, and so now we're in the Reed galleries here. And someone here is saying, how could you do something like this, Reed? And so that was Batman speaking, and Reed says, my dear Batman, what are you talking about? And Batman says, this jeweled bird your gallery's putting on display, that's what you don't know. The real Penguin broke jail 3 weeks ago. That would have been in Batman 288. We have not covered that. And so he says, you know, this is so funny where people wear a robe over the suit. What the heck? I don't know whether that's a TV thing or a movie thing, but I can't imagine real people doing that in real times. What's the point of a robe when you're in a freaking suit? I mean, what? Anyway. And he says, am I to understand that the world of art is to be ruled by that odd little man with that peculiar rolling gate? The Reed Galleries is an exhibition hall. We exhibit things. There is nothing more to say. And so he continues here. And so Reed says, what concern is it to you anyway? You no longer have any official status in this city. And Robin says, listen, Mr. Reed. And Reed says, no, you listen. I can't say I approve of the city's resolution, but I will not be dictated to in my own gallery. I assure you our security is quite sufficient. And then he goes to show them the Malay Penguin, which has its own room here. And this is kind of cool here, but it almost looks like Batman is cut in half. He's probably at an angle, most likely, but he should, but he's saying all these things in the laser, and Batman says that can be beaten. The Shadow Thief did so, and that was in JLA 139. And the guy says, but first the Penguin would have to walk across the floor, which is monitored by seismographs to detect vibration. He couldn't fly here because there are microphones to pick up the outward noise, even of those wings. And he says, Batman asks, what about the television cameras? That's what they were called back then. They're just cameras now. And he says, Batman, let's be realistic here. There is such a thing as overkill, and there is such a thing as a budget that were apparently very expensive back then. Who do you think the Penguin is anyway? A ghost? And Batman says, I think the Penguin is a man who loves to play games, challenging games. He loves to match wits for high stakes, particularly priceless birds. I think, Mr. Reed, that the Penguin is not a man to be underestimated, budget or no budget. So, and speaking of budget, Bruce Wayne's penthouse during the 70s, he is not at Wayne Manor. And so as they go through the penthouse, here they're talking about, now they have Hugo Strange to deal with, which they really don't. But they don't know that now. The Penguin and Alfred comes and says, Sir, the morning reports from your attorney has arrived. And then he says, summarize it, please, Alfred. And Alfred says, well, sir, since Hugo Strange left all that money, he drained from your holdings here at the office when he disappeared, they feel most of his dealings can be nullified. Wall Street will breathe more easily with Wayne Enterprises back on its accustomed position. And so Bruce says, that's good. What about the mail? And he says, nothing important. Thank you. Request announcements of the board meeting in Paris by your security exchange. And Bruce, who is also now wearing a robe here. Paris, huh? That would sound good anytime but now. I'll send Broom. He's a good man. And so, good night, Alfred. And so, he says, it's good morning. I'll awaken you at noon. And so, noon has come. And so here is Bruce Wayne at his desk. And here comes Robin, who slept in. And he says, we're going to go out on patrol. First, I have to make a stop. And so, this is Silver from St. Cloud from the previous, so he's going to check on her. And so, this is kind of like his romantic interest during this time here. And you can see he just gives her a kiss here. And Nightwing apologizes for the brush off, which the editor tells us he only pretended to do that so that he could turn into Robin. And so Robin excuses himself, so then these two make out, and as he closes the door, I love the screen tones being applied. He's like, oh, I like also to mention that this is Terry Austin before he joins John Byrne in the X-Men. This is around 1977. So Dave Cockrum is still doing X-Men. So eventually, though, he will go on that legendary run with John Byrne over on Uncanny X-Men. And the Batman is where he started shaping his talents. This is where we start to see Terry Austin do some really cool things, becoming probably the most sought after inker of his time. Now, inking has changed where at first, Terry Austin is more of a pen guy, less so with brushes. So mostly he gets these fine lines. I prefer the thick brushes myself. And I think a lot of artists, well, it's changed again now because of digital. So maybe it has gone back to that fine line. But I prefer that 80s Frank Miller, Claus Janson, in modern times, Chris Samney, he's got a beautiful line. So Batman and Robin go on patrol. Here's some screen tones being applied here. And so they're going to watch for a little bit. But again, look at this cape here and tell me that you don't see Todd McFarlane doing this. I mean, you can totally see that this is a big inspiration for him. And so they recognize the Penguin by his walking. And so here they come. And the Penguin again. Egad, I think, is that how you say it? And so But if he hasn't actually committed a crime, they're not supposed to go after him. But hey, he's a vigilante anyway, so whatever. And so the penguin uses his umbrella, and there's got some kind of buzzsaw in there, and so he aims it at them. And so we're gonna kind of go quick through here, and they're gonna try to catch him, but of course he uses that like a helicopter propeller, and off they go here, and they're like, huh. And so now the writer tells us we're gonna turn for a moment to matters of the famed tobacconist. So he does cigarettes, and so this is I think Rupert Thorne here, and this guy's like, I never agreed to murder, and he says you agreed to my plan, Dr. Bell, and he says yes, you to get rid of the Batman, you said, but you never mentioned murder. Hugo Strange may have been a criminal. And this guy says, I told you the dog has scruples, Roop. Yeah, and a weak liver. So, what? You haven't been on the council for very long, Doctor. I suppose I should have started worrying when phosphorus spooked you so easily. That was in Detective 469, which I have not covered. This council has to work closely together, Doctor, very closely. Take him away, Murdoch. And so like Murdoch imagines the spirit of Hugo Strange. So I imagine Hugo Strange is doing something. Hugo Strange is like a manipulist, kind of like a mentalist type thing. And so in his mind, he sees Hugo Strange and he says, go on, take him, Thorne. Take him as you took me, but soon I shall take you. And Thorne is like, what? And these guys are like, hey, what's the matter, boss? You didn't see anything? Nope. And so um, and here, beautiful shading here. We imagine this is the Batman, I would imagine, but it is not. But anyway, and so Batman can't believe the Joker got away, but somehow they hear an alarm from the Reed galleries, because of course they do. And so off they go to see, and he says it's a false alarm, and that the guy then says the theater next door is rehearsing a new musical, and he turns around and Batman is gone. So here they come to go check it out, and and so Batman goes, "Hey, can you tell me who's backing the show?" And they're like, "I don't know." And so Batman suspects that it's probably the Penguin here, and so um, so now the next night they're at the Wayne Foundation, and Bruce Wayne is talking to his guy he's gonna send to Paris, and Robin's just looking and notices the geese are in the pattern of the penguin with the hat, which I think is a stretch, but hey, it's comic books, so. And he's like, they're dropping something across the city, and so it's leaflets here, and they're like, something's attached to it. And he says here, gold coins, double eagles, $20, gold pieces. The government hasn't issued these since the 30s. And he continues here. The Penguin sure wanted this airdrop noticed. Of course, since these notes are all identical letters to the Batman. And it says here, Batman, we need to stall no longer. Time is on the wing. Tonight I shall lift the silver bird and you will take a dive, the Penguin. And so Robin says, then you've got him. It all fits. He backs the musical to mess with the gallery's alarms so that he can make a raid at the confusion. And so um, um, Bruce says wrong. And so now we're at the Gotham International Airport, and Batman arrives here, and he says, "Get away from the plane. We're about to take off." Says the guy, "Dumb man, the '70s. No 9/11 during those days." And so Batman is going through here, and he's going through the airplane, and the stewardess is like, "Good lord, the word's out on the Batman. He's hijacking the plane," and Batman's like, "Wrong, he is." And so the Penguin was there, and he's like, "You were right, but I don't get it. I was so sure he was after the Malay statue." And Batman says, "Man, those are huge pointy ears." And I apologize. I'm just not feeling. My voice is still not in there, so I'm not kind of reading this half-heartedly. So I apologize. Um. Anyway, Batman. This is such a trope where they just tell you what you should have figured out, but this is, I guess, what's supposed to make Batman such a is that he figures that out and we didn't, or whatever. Anyway, he says that's what you were supposed to think, Robin. He spared no expense to focus our attention on that bird, backing the musical as you surmise. Looking around the theater until we spotted him, all that. He had me fooled too for a while. But though the Penguin plays games, he always plays fair. Um, think of the words he used whenever he sent us a message: pitch, roll, bank, and then stall, wing, lift, and dive. Of course, they're all flight words. And there was nothing about the Malay statue involving flight, not even the bird itself, because penguins can't fly unless they steal a silver bird called an airplane. As soon as the second message came, I realized we'd been decoyed, and the only airplane I knew was worth hijacking was this one, filled with members of Securities Exchange on their way to Paris. And so Robin's like, "What an incredible plan!" And yet, it's hard to. It seems hard to imagine the Penguin passing it up on the Malay, and he's like, "Who said anything about passing it up? You twerps! I stole it 2 weeks ago before we even got into this country. The one in the gallery is a fake." And Batman arrests him. "Come on, back to your cage." Okay, so if he's Batman is persona non grata, and he is also a vigilante, he can't arrest people. But hey, it's comic books. Let's not overthink it. And so we end our tale here. And so, um, oh my goodness, I apologize. Like I said, I'm still getting over this cold. So, uh, anyway, whew, that was tough. Hopefully, I had to pause it a few times to cough, but Detective Comics 473 by Steve Englehart, Marshall Rogers, and Terry Austin. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.